Hi, everyone. How's everyone this morning? Well, welcome. I'm Reverend Kathleen McCall, and I want to welcome you to Unity North Spiritual Center in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey of faith, you're welcome with us. We're glad you're here today. We are an inclusive community. We welcome and accept all people. And we're also part of a greater worldwide unity movement. We're the publishers of the Daily Word magazine. We've been holding 131 years of prayer vigil through Silent Unity, the prayer ministry of the unity movement. And so prayer is the heart and soul of unity. So let me see, Gretchen, are you our prayer chaplain today? And so you can find her on our chat, and also our healer today. Let's see, seeing her. Okay, Sue, there you are. So Sue Matson is our healer today, and you can also find her on our chat. She does long distance healing, so you can call either one of them after service if you have a need for prayer or a need for long distance healing. All right, and then I'm happy to introduce our producer of the service, Chris Italiano, and our worship assistant today is Rhonda Italiano, and our guest musician is Therese Schutte. And so we're happy to have you back with us again today, Therese. Many of you know she's been a member of Unity for 20 plus years and has provided music for not only our Unity, but other churches in the metro area in Wisconsin. She's a vibrant, lively musician who seeks to create community through music. So let's give her a warm welcome as she leads us in our opening song.
Therese, I'm sorry, you're muted. Therese?
You're muted.
You look like you're having a great time, but you're muted.
There we go.
There you go.
Hey, I get to start again.
Yeah, you try number 2.
I am alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake. Joyful and enthusiastic for life. I am alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake. Joyous and enthusiastic for life. I see each morning as a new beginning. I greet each day with an opportunity to share. I'm breathing deep and I feel connected to all God's love is sending everywhere. I am alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake. Joyous and enthusiastic for life. I am alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake. Joyous and enthusiastic, joyous and enthusiastic, joyous and enthusiastic for life. We're gonna do that again. I am alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake.
alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake. Joyous and enthusiastic for life. I see each morning as a new beginning. I greet each day with an opportunity to share. I'm breathing deep and I feel connected to all the love God's sending everywhere. I am alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake. Joyous and enthusiastic for life. I am alive, aware, and awake. I am alive, aware, and awake. Joyous and enthusiastic, joyous and enthusiastic, joyous and enthusiastic for life.
That was awesome, Therese. Thank you. What a way to start our service. Woo! Indeed. So I want to echo Reverend Kathy's welcome to everyone. I also want to have an opportunity to acknowledge all of the fathers here with us. We appreciate you. We are celebrating the divine masculine today, and we are grateful for that opportunity. We also want to acknowledge anyone who is either out of state or visiting us for the first time. One of the upsides to COVID is that our community has grown and people who live out of state are able to join us, and we are so grateful for that. So if you would please unmute yourself, let us know who you are and where you're from. No, or they're bashful. Okay. I think we all have Zoom etiquette down at this point, but I will just give you one bit of information. In the upper right-hand corner of your computer, if you are on an iPad or a computer, you will find a view button. So gallery view, that always reminds me of Hollywood Squares where everyone is in their little box. So you have that option. Otherwise, you can click on speaker view, and then the person who is speaking at that time will take up your screen. So you have those options. And if you have any questions, you can always put those in the chat, and one of us will take care of that as we are able. So deep breath. We will move into our time of shared prayer. If there is anything that is weighing on your heart or on your mind, this is your opportunity to speak that aloud in the privacy of your home. So we will take a moment now to honor everyone's prayer requests. And with another deep breath, we say, thank you, Mother, Father, God, knowing that our prayers are answered before we can form the words. And so it is. Amen. And continuing with that prayerful energy, we will share today's daily word. So the word for today, Sunday, June 20th, 2021, is Father's love. I give thanks for my Father and all expressions of fatherly love. I treasure my childhood memories of feeling safe when my father or a father figure in my life was nearby. I remember my father's encouragement as I was learning to ride a bike, as we explored the wonders of nature together, and as he taught me to use money wisely. Even when I made youthful mistakes, my father's sometimes stern but always wise judgment helped me find the way back to my right path. I give thanks for both the sacred human and the unfolding expression of God within my father and everyone who has blessed me with fatherly love. Today, I pray for my father and for all fathers, affirming for each of them growing wisdom, understanding, and willingness to nurture others with a father's encouraging love. From John 15:9, we read, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love." The word for today is Father's love. And with that, I am going to turn things back over to Therese so she can lead us in song.
You're muted again, Therese.
Lead me to the light. Lead me to the light. Help me to make it through. Lead me into the light. Make my eyes to see all that I can be. Help me to see it through. Lead me into the light. Turn my night to day. Be here with my pain. Help me to be with you. Lead me into the light. Lead me into the light.
Thank you, Therese. I invite you now to sit back, relax, prepare for meditation. Allow me to speak the words for you, taking them in as your own. As I relax, I know that I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. Just take another deep breath and let it go, releasing all tension. Once again, inhale deeply and release all cares and concerns. And now I invite you to relax into the divine presence. I know that God is omnipresent, everywhere present. I feel this divine Father within me now. This is the inner strength which protects and takes care of me. I take a moment to reflect upon my own Father. No matter what my relationship with him is or was, by his very presence and his choices upon the earth, my being here in this time and place is because of him. And so I thank him for his part in my life. And even if I had wounding from him or by him in any way, in this moment, I still give thanks for whatever he gave me that helped contribute to who I am today. I feel grateful for the good that has come forth. I bless him, I forgive and release him. I feel his forgiveness wherever it might be needed. And I take a moment in the silence to send a blessing of love and peace wherever he is on this side or the other side of life. I think of all those who have nurtured me, taught me, mentored me, protected me throughout my life, whether they were in male or female form, those expressions of Father, and I bless them. And I think about all of the fathers everywhere, all around the planet, those who are fathering. And I feel the fatherhood of humankind, an expression of the Divine Father within, for the presence of strength and love, of nurturing, of wisdom, of courage, and all those traits that we associate with Father, all of that within. And even more than that, the pure omnipresence of being. I am grateful. Thank you, God, for fathers everywhere, for the fatherhood in each one of us and all of humankind. Thank you for the Divine Father, the omnipresence, the omnipotence, and the omniscience of life. Thank you, for I am lifted up, I am nurtured, I am protected, and I am at peace. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
So some of you know that my dad passed away last September. And this song is a song by Carole King, and I'm gonna, kind of dangerous, isn't it? I'm gonna dedicate this to my dad because he struggled with finding peace and comfort in his heart while he was here. way down deep inside my soul, there's a place that I know where I can find shelter from hunger and cold, and the sweet tasted good life is so easily found. Way down deep inside my soul, that's where I'm bound. I know when I get there, the first thing I'll see is the sun shining golden. It's shining right down on me. Then trouble's gonna lose me. Worry leave me behind, and I'll stand up proudly in true peace of mind. Talking about a way down deep inside my soul. There's a place that I see. It's a garden of wisdom from some long ago dream. Oh yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Maybe tomorrow I'll find my way to the land where the honey runs, in the rivers each day. The sweet tasting good life is so easily found. Way down deep inside my soul, that's where I'm bound. Way deep inside my soul, that's where I'm bound.
Thank you, Therese. Beautiful song. Today's lesson is called Father Love. Father's Day began because Mrs. John Bruce Dodd sought to honor her father, who sacrificed and worked to raise 6 children. Her dad, William Smart, was left with children aged 3 to 16 years when his wife died. Father deserved a special day too, as mothers had, she decided. She was going to do something about it. So in 1910, she spoke to the Spokane Ministerial Alliance to present her idea. And on June 19th, the first Father's Day was celebrated. Local newspapers publicized the new holiday, and stores featured gifts appropriate for Father. Young men wore roses to church that day, a red rose for a living father or a white rose in memory of a deceased father. Mrs. Dodd spent the day in and out of her horse-drawn carriage as she distributed gifts to shut-in fathers. By the time her own father died in 1919, the day his father started in his honor was celebrated throughout the United States. By 1922, it was a nationwide observance in the US and widely celebrated in Canada. Humorist Mike Dugan said, "I have mixed emotions when I received Father's Day gifts. I'm glad my children remember me, but I'm disappointed they actually think I dress that way." Well, today we honor fathers, and I would like to talk about our divine Father, our earthly Father, and the Father within. Masculine characteristics are ascribed to God the Father in Scripture. He's usually defined as dominant, powerful, fatherly, passionate, whose ways are too high for his children to understand. This Father God often takes an active interest in human affairs in the way that a father would take an interest in his children who are dependent on him. And as a father, he will respond to humanity, his children acting in their best interests. Many believe they can communicate with him through prayer and improve their relationship with him. At times, it's also expected God may punish those who err like a father punishes his children, though we do not subscribe to that belief in unity. The Bible reveals God as the Lord of the universe, calls him Father in both Old and New Testaments. He's the Father and Lord of creation. Finally, God the Father is also viewed as immense, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, with infinite power and charity that goes beyond human understanding. For instance, after completing his monumental work, Summa Theologica, St. Thomas Aquinas concluded that he had not yet even begun to understand God the Father. The Gospel of Mark records that Jesus used the term Abba when praying to God the Father, and Abba is a much more intimate term for father, similar to the word daddy. We all need a caring human father or an equivalent as early as possible in our lives to help us understand what God the Father is like. Remote, indifferent, unavailable human fathers can lead us to believe that God also is detached, unconcerned, and uninvolved in the daily cares of our world. I never doubted my father's love for me. It was not so much what he said, but his actions that told me this. He loved my mom. He worked hard to provide for our family. He was honest and ethical in all of his dealings, and he loved something beyond himself. He owned an architectural hardware company in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he furnished all of the hardware on a number of buildings in Utah, along with the Mormon Temple in Washington, D.C., and also the original MGM Hotel in Reno. After the fire there, my brother went on and furnished all of the hardware on the current rebuilt MGM in Las Vegas. I have a plaque that has a copy of the door plate my dad designed for the Mormon Temple in Salt Lake City when the door was blown off by a bomb many years ago. It was an example of his creativity, is an example of it. And I actually wanted to show it to you today, but it's actually very heavy to lift. So I'll have to show it to you another time live or take a picture. But my dad was a Mason, so he called God the great architect of the universe. We often take our dad's love for granted, especially as we grow from early childhood, when daddy may seem perfect, into our teen years when his intelligence is doubtful and we wonder if we're really related. Mark Twain said, "When I was a boy of 14, my father was ignorant. I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much he had learned in 7 years." Well, Mary Loudermilk writes, "Fathers come in all shapes and sizes. Some have large booming laughs and a story to tell. Others are quiet and introspective. Many dads can fix almost anything with duct tape or a coat hanger. Others aren't sure which end of the hammer should hit the nail. Regardless of their abilities, God has placed them in our lives as authority figures and guides to help us mature into responsible adults. Unfortunately, not every child has had the privilege of growing up in a home with a loving father. Those of us who did are blessed. If you are one of those that did not have a loving father, then this day can be one in which to reflect instead on the love of the divine Father of all. You know, most of us know the familiar parable of the prodigal son found in Luke 15. The story has three main characters: the father, an older son who stays home, and a younger son who chooses to take his inheritance and move far away. And there the young man makes many bad choices and spends his inheritance on wild living. Soon he finds himself hungry and penniless and alone. And finally coming to his senses, he turns toward home. And as he walks, he practices his speech in his mind. I will go home to my father and I will say, Father, I have sinned and against both heaven and you, and I'm no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired man. Well, before the son ever reaches his home, the father sees him coming, and the Bible describes their meeting this way. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. You know, I wonder how many days the father had walked to the end of the property, gazed far into the distance, and hoped for the sight of his wayward son. Dad had planned this day in his mind long ago. He did not meet the son with anger or an accusing, I told you so. Instead, he called for the servants to prepare a party. The father did not condone his son's reckless actions, but his love never wavered. He restored him to his place in the family. Fathers are compassionate. An anonymous humorist wrote, my father would not have been particularly interested in a book about fathering, although he did like to read. And one day when he was reading in the living room, my brother and I decided we could play basketball without breaking anything. When I took a shot that redesigned the glass table, my mother came in with a stick and said, so help me, I'll bust you in half. Without lifting his head from his book, my father said, why would you want twice as many? Well, today on Father's Day, many will be blessed to spend time with their dads. Many dads with their children, and others will simply remember. Famous photographer Ansel Adams remembered his dad. Ansel was a fidgety child who had difficulty adjusting to traditional schools, and his father decided to teach him at home. The next years were extremely fruitful. Learning experiences were always tapped into the young boy's intrinsic interests and ranged from playing the piano to visiting an exposition. Years later, after he had become internationally known for his creative photography, Adams paid tribute to the courage of a father who was willing to take risks, to listen to that different drummer, unique to each child. In his autobiography, Adams wrote, I am certain he established the positive direction of my life that otherwise, given my native hyperactivity, could have been confused and catastrophic. I trace who I am and the direction of my development to those years of growing up in our house on the dunes, propelled especially by an internal spark tenderly kept alive and glowing by my father. Fathers are teachers and risk takers. A young successful attorney said, the greatest gift I ever received was a gift I got one Christmas when my dad gave me a small box. Inside was a note saying, son, this year I will give you 365 hours, an hour every day after dinner. It's yours. We'll talk about what you want to talk about. We'll go where you want to go, play what you want to play. It will be your hour. My dad not only kept his promise, but every year he renewed it. And it's the greatest gift I ever had in my life. I am the result of his time. Fathers are generous givers. It's also said that fathers are people who give their daughters away to other men who aren't nearly good enough so they can have grandchildren who are smarter than anybody's. Well, a father named Hannock McCarty wrote about one of his experiences of fatherhood. He writes, alone in the wheel of light at the dining room table, surrounded by an otherwise darkened house, I sat in tears. Finally, I'd succeeded in getting both kids to bed. A relatively new single parent, I had to be both mommy and daddy to my two little children. I got them both washed, accompanied by shrieks of delight, crazy running around, laughing and throwing things. More or less calmed down, they lay in their beds as I gave each the prescribed 5 minutes of back rubs. Then I took my guitar and began the nighttime ritual of folk songs, ending with All the Pretty Little Horses, both kids' favorite. I sang it over and over, gradually reducing the tempo and the volume till they seemed fully engaged in sleep. A recently divorced man with full custody of his children, I was determined to give them as normal and stable a home life as possible. I put on a happy face for them. I kept their activities as close to how they had always been as I could. This nightly ritual was just as it had always been, with the exception that their mother was now missing. There, I'd done it again, another night successfully concluded. I'd risen slowly, gingerly, trying to avoid making even the least sound, which might start them up again, asking for more songs and more stories. I tiptoed out of their room, closed the door part way, and went downstairs. Sitting at the dining room table, I slumped in my chair, where this was the first time since I came home from work I'd been able just to sit down. I'd cooked and served and encouraged two little ones to eat. I'd done the dishes. While responding to their many requests for attention, I helped my oldest with her second grade homework, appreciated my youngest's drawings, and oohed over his elaborate construction of Lego blocks. The bath, the stories, the back rubs, the singing, and now at long last, a brief moment for myself. The silence was a relief for the moment. Then it all crowded in on me. The fatigue, the weight of the responsibility, the monthly bills I wasn't sure I could pay that month, the endless details of running a house. Only, a short time before I'd been married, and I had a partner to share these chores, these bills, these worries, and loneliness. I felt as though I were at the bottom of a great sea of loneliness. It all came together, and I was at once lost, overwhelmed. Unexpected, convulsive sobs overtook me. I sat there silently sobbing. And just then, a pair of little arms went around my middle, and a little face peered up at me. I looked down into my 5-year-old son's sympathetic face. I was embarrassed to be seen crying by my son. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't know you were still awake. I don't know why it is, but so many people apologize when they cry, and I was no exception. I didn't mean to cry. I'm sorry. I'm just a little sad tonight. It's okay, Daddy. It's okay to cry. You're just a person. Well, I can't express how happy he made me, this little boy who, in the wisdom of innocence, gave me permission to cry. He seemed to be saying I didn't have to always be strong, that it was occasionally possible to allow myself to feel weak and to let out my feelings. He crept into my lap, and we hugged and talked for a while, and I took him back up to his bed and tucked him in. Somehow it was possible for me to get to sleep that night too. Thank you, my son. Fathers are not perfect, but human. Some fear the responsibility. There are 3 men sitting in the waiting room of a hospital. A nurse walks over to the first guy and says, "Congratulations, you're the father of twins." What a coincidence, he says. I work for Twin City Federal. A while later, the nurse comes out to congratulate the second man. You are the proud father of triplets, she tells him. Well, that's funny, says the new dad. I work for AAA. The third expectant father jumps up, a look of terror on his face, and runs out of the room. Sir, where are you going? The nurse calls out. He yells over his shoulder, I work for 10,000 Auto Parts. Well, my older brother, Keith, passed away 3 years ago. He was very much an archetypal father. He had 11 kids, 5 of them his own and 6 of them stepchildren, 34 grandchildren, and 19 great-grandchildren. His youngest son, Steve, told a story about his dad when he was 12 at my brother's memorial service. He said he and his dad were swimming together at the beach, and Steve considered himself a pretty good swimmer at age 12, and he was quite a ways out in the waves. And suddenly a riptide came up, and Steve found himself struggling a bit. In a moment, his dad was right there, but not to save him. He said to Steve with firmness in his voice, swim in now, son. Then my brother continued to swim out further to save someone. Steve had to swim hard, but he made it in and saw his dad had saved a man who was in shock on the sand. And Steve said to his dad, Dad, he should have thanked you. He said, no, son, that's not what this is about. It's about his life. From that day, 12-year-old Steve saw his dad as his hero, not just because he saved a life, but even more because he had trusted him. He had left his 12-year-old son to swim back because he trusted he would and could with his skills and his good judgment. So fathers give their trust. And my sons are both great dads. My oldest, Chris, cried when his girls were born. They were 3 years apart. And he said each time that it was the most amazing experience of his life. For a while, every time I spoke with my son after the first birth, he would tell me, Mom, this is the most awesome baby in the whole world. And when he was rocking her and gazing into her eyes, he said with great tenderness, sweetheart, I love you. And you are so not going to date anyone when you grow up. And at that moment, she began to cry. So he revised it that she could date, but not until age 30. So he lightened up a bit because she had a boyfriend actually from kindergarten to 4th grade, the same kid all that time. And one day when my son was at school, the boy introduced himself to Chris and said, by the way, I'm her boyfriend. And Chris looked at him and said, don't you know about fear of the father? And the boy said, no. And my son shrugged his shoulders and said, okay, well, cool. Fathers are great protectors. My sister had some letters that our father had written to her in her early marriage. One was in regard to me when I was 14 years old. He wrote, last night, I saved your sister Kathy's life. She was going to bed when she summoned me to her room, where without hesitation, I fell upon the monster and slayed it. I believe it's called a tarantula or black widow. It was either that or just a pretty shiny spider with a red hourglass on its belly. It was not very big as I think back, maybe just 6 or 7 feet from tip to tip. I fought gallantly with that poor beast, but alas, it was no match for its superb adversary. After all these experiences, I will sleep for many hours so I may meet the morrow with renewed vigor. You can tell my dad had a sense of humor. My mother always said he was a frustrated warrior. We all have an inner father. At those times when things don't seem to be working well in our lives, we can call him forth. It's that part of us that is compassionate, teacher and risk taker, generous giver, not perfect but human, trusting, and a great protector. Like our earthly father, the father within is courageous and trustworthy, ethical and strong, He could be not only gentle and loving, but a powerful warrior when needed. That Father energy is always there for us to call forth. So this day, let us remember our inner Father, our earthly Father, and our divine Father. His love is unconditional and unwavering and eternally welcoming, and we never need to doubt his love. Happy Father's Day. God bless you. Thank you.
So my dad taught me a lot of things. Before he died, he taught me compassion beyond what I thought I knew. In that moment of finding that compassion for my dad, which had been hard to find before, I also found a love for him that I'd never had. Not that this song has a lot to do with that, but it is called It's Only Love, and it's by Neil and Leandra. I carried a torch to light up the world, to set it on fire with the sound of my name. But I've gotten older, who knows if I'm wiser. There's more to life than the lure of fame. And I don't have everything that I want, but I got all that I need. It's only love, only love. Only love will set me free. Only love will set me free. I carried a hammer to the holy mountain to chisel my deeds in the book of time. But those pages of stone are all gonna crumble. We're just a brief, bright flash in the maker's mind. And I don't have everything that I want, but I got all that I need. It's only love, only love. Only love will set me free. Only love will set me free. I carried a book to preach to the people, to show them the way that I go. But there's only one word that's gonna last forever. It's what's in your heart and not what you know. And I don't have everything that I want, but I got all that I need. It's only love, only love. Only love will set me free. Only love will set me free. It's only love, only love. Only love will set me free. It's only love, only love. Only love will set me free.
Thank you, Therese. That was fun. All right. We have come to the point in our service where we bless our offering. So as Chris pulls up that slide, the routine hasn't changed. You still have the QR code here. If you hold your phone over that, you can click on that code and it will bring you to unitynorthmn.org/giving, which is the space on our website where you are able to donate online. Otherwise, as always, you are welcome to mail a check to our physical address at the church. So however you choose to give, if you would please hold that in your hearts, in your hands, and in your minds. And please repeat the offering blessing with me. Divine love flowing through me now blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am grateful. And so it is. Amen. And then according to my order of service, we have an offering song with Therese next.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. And I'm free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release, I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. And I'm free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Thank you, thank you. And then we are on to community news. So first of all, I want to draw your attention to our guest speaker and musician next week, Reverend Blair Tabor. He will be providing the content for the talk and the music in place of Reverend Kathy. So we are excited to meet him and see what he has to offer us. Also, we are looking for healers. So if you are interested in becoming a healer during our services, the information is there to contact Cindy Huberty. So if you would please reach out to Cindy if you would like to help with that aspect of our community. We also have a family table meal coming up. This is another drive-through style meal. If you would like to help with family table, please contact Kathleen Bailey, and her email address and phone number are listed there. And I bet she could put something in the chat if she wants to add to that. So thank you, Kathleen, for taking care of that. Also, we have a couple of classes in progress. The first one is, I should have made this bigger on my screen. This is a study group, a Bible study. The first week has passed, but Reverend Kathy has said that you are still welcome to join. If you would like to do that, please read parts 1 and 2 before the next session coming up here. Also, Reverend Kathy is doing a Bible metaphysics class. Again, week 1 has already taken place, but she said she's happy to send notes out if someone would still like to join us. So either of those classes, even though one has already taken place, you are still welcome to join in and catch up. And that is all I have this week.
So I just want to say thank you to everybody today. Thank you to Chris, and I hope you have a happy Father's Day with your Serena after service. And thank you to Rhonda as our worship assistant, and special thank you to Therese for your beautiful songs today. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll speak our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And now we'll sing our peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my brother in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you again, Therese, for your music. At this point, I invite everyone to unmute themselves and stay for social time.